Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another episode of Added Time, answering your questions that you kindly submitted. But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit that like button if you're enjoying the content, because it helps out the channel as well. Let's get into your questions. Firstly here from Kalidou, who asks, which players would you sell from this squad if you were Lampard, and which ones do you think deserve another season? I'm trying not to just base this on my frustration with Saturday's performance, because I think it'd be very easy to maybe discard players that do deserve another chance. I think it depends on the requirement that Frank Lampard needs from certain players. Like, I think players like Jorginho just will not be a starter for Chelsea going forward. If Frank is adamant on having a lone defensive midfielder, he's going to need a more versatile one. He's going to need one that can move quicker than Jorginho can, and Jorginho just won't survive in this system. Whether he goes this summer or not, I'm not entirely sure. I think Billy Gilmour's injury may define that, but we have got another player in Ampadu probably returning this summer, so that could define that as well. I feel like players like Andreas Christensen, Antonio Rudiger could be off. I mean, I think one of those two could be. Zuma could be off, but I don't want to sell Zuma, so I'd say one of Andreas Christensen or Antonio Rudiger would be leaving. I think maybe Christensen more likely, based on maybe the length of his contract. I think Marcos Alonso, Emerson definitely will be off. Emerson absolutely, I think, will be off now to Inter Milan. Moving forward, I think Michy Batshuayi, just hasn't got any minutes recently. I think he'll be off as well. Willian, I think it's a 50-50 for me at the moment with Willian, because I can see why the club maybe wants to keep him for another season based on other transfer targets. If we keep Willian and maybe give him a 2-year contract, I think that would be a good deal for Chelsea personally. Then you can, focus on maybe getting a centre-back, Kai Havertz, other players as well. But if Willian's demanding that 3-year contract, I don't think Chelsea should give it to him. And I think maybe a player like Said Benrahma from Brentford would be brilliant to bring in. Those are my players, I think, the obvious ones. I think the younger players like Tammy Abraham need more chances. Chelsea aren't going to sell Tammy Abraham, and they shouldn't, because as we've seen in the past, just because Tammy's struggling at the moment, I think he still had a brilliant season. You've got to give him time. And if we let him go too early, like we have with other players, and he develops into an amazing goal scorer, I don't want to see people complaining later on if you feel that Tammy's not good enough now. We've got to give Tammy time. I think he can come back stronger next season. So those are the obvious names for me, and maybe Kepa as well on loan if Chelsea are serious about getting a new goalkeeper as well. Kwame asks, looking at Leicester's remaining fixtures and Chelsea's fixtures, do you think that fans are overreacting, saying that top 4 hopes are over? I think Chelsea absolutely, of course, have a chance, and Bournemouth doing us a massive favour last night. Once again, it's been a crazy season. How Chelsea are still above Leicester and are still probably going to be in the top 4 by the time we play Norwich after that woeful display at Sheffield United is truly incredible. I think Chelsea probably needs 6 points. Chelsea shouldn't just think, 6 points is enough. We need, I'd say, Chelsea should be going out there for all 3 of these remaining Premier League games and trying to win them all, because I think we can on our best day. The unfortunate thing about Chelsea is you just can't rely that consistently we're going to have good days, especially based on Saturday's performance. But I feel that 6 will probably be enough. Leicester, of course, not only losing last night, not only having a really bad record away from home recently, but of course, I think getting a 3-game ban now, other players being injured, that could really help Chelsea in the sense that Leicester will struggle. They've got difficult opponents. Their remaining 3 games are Sheffield United at home, Tottenham away, and Manchester United at home. So Chelsea could benefit off that. And in a dream scenario, Chelsea may not need the final 2 games. If I believe it's a scenario where like Chelsea win tomorrow night, which obviously needs to happen. I believe Wolves fail to beat Burnley and Leicester lose their next 2 games. Chelsea, I think, will be in Champions League football, but I think you've got to keep the faith, and I really hope Chelsea squad react right tomorrow, and they've got to, because if we don't beat Norwich, we don't deserve Champions League football. It's pretty simple. Fifi asks, would you bring in Koulibaly for about 80 million for short-term success, maybe 3 or 4 seasons, or going for Declan Rice or any young promising centre-back to learn more and grow with the team? Koulibaly, I think that's the biggest issue for me with bringing in Koulibaly. I have no doubt if you were to bring in a player like Koulibaly for a massive fee, he'd absolutely improve our defence. It could be transformative to Chelsea's defence. I think there's no denying that. The problem is spending a club record fee on a player for that amount of money that Chelsea are not guaranteed any resale value on, that probably at most you're getting 1 to 2 seasons on. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to spend a club record fee on, say, Kai Havertz, that I think would be a smarter move, if I'm being honest. Of course, it's not the same position. I can understand why Chelsea would want Declan Rice. He's still a young player, still could be an amazing centre-back, has that ability on the ball, maybe leadership skills as well, could also play in central midfield. CDM, which he has for the majority of time at West Ham, but could also shift back to that defensive position as well. I'd go in the direction of Declan Rice, and just based on what I'm reading at the moment, it does look like Declan Rice is a prime target for Chelsea at the moment. Callum asks, injury-free, how far do you think Ruben's ceiling is? For me, he could be a crucial player going forward. I absolutely agree. I think I'm probably biased towards RubenLoftusCheek, so I'd probably overestimate his ceiling and probably say he can do amazing things. Injury-wise, that's a big concern. I think if he does get one more big injury, I think he's going to really struggle to be a first-team player at Chelsea or just, have a big career. I think that's going to be a major struggle for him. We've seen with players in the past like Jack Wilshere, who had really promising starts to their careers, but then injuries just set them back and back. And you see where Jack Wilshere is now, never got to the heights people expected him to. I think Ruben has absolute the capability to be Chelsea's best midfielder, especially, even maybe Chelsea's best player. I think the form he showed under Maurizio Sarri was astonishing. I think you can't underrate what he did, considering where Chelsea were before he came into the team regularly at the back end of last season, how much Chelsea was struggling for movement, for energy, for a bit of inspiration. Ruben gave that along with Eden Hazard, and he was doing amazingly well until he got injured. And I think he offers something. Chelsea need goals from midfield. It's why they're probably pursuing Kai Havertz. We've lacked goals from central midfield, and that eye for a goal, I think it's so important and something Ruben really developed, I think, last season under Sarri. I think the acceleration he has from a starting position is very important as well, and very important for what Frank Lampard wants to do. If he wants to play 2 number 8s, I think Ruben can be massive for that. I think it's all down to injury and form, of course. I feel, as you saw a glimpse against Crystal Palace, when Ruben gets going, it's very hard to stop him, and he can be very crucial for Chelsea in the final third. Tan's video asks, we've seen Chelsea play for almost a season and have seen Lampard's derby. Where do you see the fragility in our defence with respect to the system? PS, love your content. Thank you, mate. I think Lampard, of course, you have to understand that he is still a young manager, still a young coach, finding out what his best system is, probably finding out, what he likes in his teams and what he doesn't like in his teams. I think to expect that's going to be fully formed within 2 seasons is ridiculous, and that was the risk Chelsea took by appointing Frank Lampard. I think everyone knew that. To be surprised by that now, I think would be a bit naive. I think that was the risk of appointing Lampard. I think the problem Lampard has is, and I hope that the midfield for me is a big component of improving Chelsea going forward, in the sense that knowing what he wants from that midfield. I think for a lot of the season, maybe he was going to continue what Sarri did last year, playing Jorginho at the base, Kante a little bit further forward, more a possession-based side. Maybe he wants something a little bit different now, a lone CDM with 2 number 8s. Hopefully that defines recruitment-wise. I think it's transition, and I also think it's just the basics of defending. I mean, sometimes I think that's down to Frank Lampard's, setup. He does need to take responsibility for that. Maybe a new defensive coach could help Chelsea in that aspect. Certainty around what Lampard wants to do on the pitch, I think, is key. And hopefully the more time he gets at Chelsea, the more he'll know that. Of course, it's different at Chelsea based on time-wise, based on expectation. I think Frank Lampard wants to play a higher pressing game than maybe Sarri did. I don't think he wants to play a possession-based style of football, just based on what I've heard Frank Lampard say going back to pre-season. And the best of Chelsea this season has been that. Look at all our best performances. They're not really possession-based games. Although Chelsea's stats in terms of possession have improved, they're not as much as Sarri. It's not so methodical. Chelsea needs to be moving the ball fast, and it's understanding when Chelsea are out of possession how we limit the amount of counter-attacking opportunities, because transition-wise Chelsea have been done, and I think some of that has to do with players like Jorginho, who can't cope in that type of system, and maybe having Kante fit for a season would majorly help Chelsea, and also recruiting a centre-back. Curtly Short asked, with Jorginho possibly leaving and Gilmour injured for the start of next season, is this an opportunity for Ethan Ampadu to be the second CDM behind Kante for next season? Absolutely. I think Ethan Ampadu has been forgotten a bit by Chelsea fans, and it's no surprise. Of course, not a really successful loan at RB Leipzig. Had one really good performance at centre back against Tottenham earlier in the season, and hopefully we'll feel good to come back and play alongside Timo Werner, a new teammate who I'm sure would have come accustomed to out in Germany. But absolutely. I mean, I've always been impressed when I've seen Ethan Ampadu. That assurance and that sense of, maturity about Ethan Ampadu's game. A bit like Billy Gilmour, in a sense that you feel like at his best, is years beyond his age in terms of maturity on a football pitch. We've seen Ampadu play both those positions, not only for Chelsea, for Wales, and for, of course, Leipzig this season in little moments. I think the fact that Kante's fitness is a concern, and, Declan Rice may be coming in, I think it's good to have certain players who could play that position, and I think Ampadu absolutely could see himself getting getting back into Chelsea's first team squad, not only playing at CDM, but potentially a solution at centre-back as well. So I think he does have an opportunity to break in that position as well. Max asks, have your transfer wishes for Chelsea changed after the Sheffield game? Not massively. We still need a left-back. We need a centre-back more than ever now. I think Chelsea can't avoid doing that this summer, and with the rumours for Declan Rice, I don't think that's going to go away. Maybe more targets. A goalkeeper, I think, as well, has become a bigger priority for Chelsea. I know there are some talks about Andre Onana today, and that would be, I think, a brilliant option for Chelsea. One of those players I did in my transfer video months back at the start of lockdown, basically saying Andre Onana, I thought it would be a brilliant option for Chelsea, and I think that'd be a great keeper. Of course, the only issue for that is trying to find a club for Kepa. I think I don't see Kepa and Onana being at Chelsea at the same time, probably now. And yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, if Willian does leave, we do need a wide option, and of course, Said Benrahma continues to be linked. I think that'd be a brilliant coup for Chelsea, and I think we'll maybe get ahead of the game in some sense from other clubs who would like to sign Benrahma. So that'd be about it. I think priority after Kai Havertz, Chelsea desperately want to sign Kai Havertz, I think, and that's a big signing, I think, for Chelsea, a big target quite clearly now. After that, it's quite clear that centre-back and left-back are the next two priority, and maybe goalkeeper. So yeah, nothing much has changed for me, even after the disaster on Saturday. So that is it for this edition of Added Time. Thank you guys so much for submitting your questions. Apologies to those I didn't get to this week, but once again, next Monday, Added Time again, so you can ask your questions for the video. But thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.